Is Mitchell Trubisky a good option for the 49ers? Stick with me. Hear me out, okay? Everything I just said about Carson Wentz, now apply that to Mitchell Trubisky, okay? Both, what they have in common, they both were developed and played for these knockoff Andy Reid fraud coaches. They stink. Matt Nagy and Doug Peterson stink. They have no original ideas. They stole whatever ideas Andy Reid were using in 2017, He took the stuff that was cutting edge for Andy Reid 3 years ago, and that's what they're stuck with. Andy Reid has moved on. Andy Reid continually evolves like Kyle Shanahan. These guys, two of the worst coaches in the league, Matt Nagy, Doug Peterson. I was watching the Eagles right now. They were in that game. The defense really didn't even try hard. They gave up a 77-yard touchdown run. They had guys flying all over the field, just missing tackles. They look like they don't care. Both of those teams look like they don't care. They don't play for their coaches. Anyway, so you got Mitchell Trubisky with Nagy, Wentz with Peterson, Baker Mayfield with Freddie Kitchens. I put Peterson and Nagy on the Freddie Kitchens level in terms of coordinators in 2020. They just stink. They're killing their quarterbacks. If you get Mitchell Trubisky played well today. Mitchell Trubisky is like a poor man's Carson Wentz. He's mobile. He's more mobile than you'd think. He's pretty freaking mobile. Got a strong arm. Accuracy seems to be, everything else is just seems to be like, I don't know, like you're a disaster. You're broken. You're a disaster quarterback and you're broken. But you were a top pick because you're toolsy. They're toolsy big guys who seem like they're on life support. Now, way more toolsy than Blake Bortles ever was. Blake Bortles stinks. These guys are better than them. I think Blake Bortles, he's not even a backup quarterback in the league anymore, I don't believe. He wasn't even good enough to be a backup. Trubisky and Wentz, I think, are like Mayfield. You just put them in an offense where they can get under center and throw down the field and they're not doing RPOs all the time. I'd like to see it. You see what it does for Baker Mayfield's career. I think it'll work for Carson Wentz. And the nice thing about Trubisky is that he theoretically could just be like, you could get him for like $1 million. You wouldn't have to trade anything for him. He'd just be there. He'd just be out there on the free agent market. It's possible no one would want him, and you could put him on the bench for a year, or you could start him and then have him be the bridge quarterback for whatever quarterback the Niners draft. I think like, I know people hate Mitchell Trubisky, and maybe this isn't something you guys want to hear, but to me, I always equated him and Wentz. They're similar. If you like Wentz, you're intrigued by Trubisky. If you hate Wentz, you freaking hate Trubisky. But I put Baker Mayfield in the same class. They are quarterbacks with big arms, questionable accuracy, and questionable feel for the game. But you give a quarterback a run game and a play action game, they all look better. Look at Baker. Imagine Wentz. Wentz has had injuries. He's older. He's more expensive. He'd cost a draft pick. Trubisky, younger, also has had injuries. Wouldn't cost a draft pick. Way cheaper. If you get Wentz, you can't draft a quarterback too. If you get Trubisky, you can also draft a quarterback. You can hedge your bets. I don't gamble. I don't really know what those, but I think I used the word correctly. See what I'm saying? I just feel like Trubisky could do well with Shanahan. A lot of quarterbacks could do well with Shanahan. Nick Mullins does well with Shanahan. I think Trubisky is toolsier than even Jimmy Garoppolo. And if you go back and read what Kyle Shanahan said about Mitchell Trubisky, he loved him. Google Kyle Shanahan, Mitchell Trubisky. There's all kind of quotes. Shanahan saying, yeah, my favorite quarterback in the draft. Would have loved to take him. Said it was his favorite quarterback in the draft. You know what? He was my favorite quarterback too. I hate to admit it. So, interesting options. And again, before we move on from Mitchell Trubisky, let me just point out what his numbers were today in a loss. He plays for Matt Nagy, who freaking stinks. And he comes in today and goes 26 of 34 for 267 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 108 quarterback rating. He also can run. And this guy's going to be available, and you can get him on like the Cam Newton contract to like, hey man, here's like the vet minimum. What do you say? Former number 3 pick. To me, I think when I look at Trubisky, I think he could really become like a Ryan Tannehill. Like Ryan Tannehill basically went from a crap situation with Adam Gase and a bad scheme, a bad coach. No one's going to do well with Adam Gase. Something to keep in mind with Sam Darnold. Then he goes to the Titans, and all he does is he hands off to the best running back in the league, and then he throws some play action passes to one of the best wide receivers in the league, A.J. Brown. It's like handoff, play action, 15-yard throw over the middle to A.J. Brown. Carson Wentz could do that. Mitchell Trubisky could do that. I think they'd be really good at that. You know, with those kind of offenses, you want a quarterback like Tannehill, one of these former first-round picks who was toolsy, who was athletic, who was mishandled, because they actually do have the legs, the stature, the arm strength to pull off higher degree of difficulty throws, not just stand in the shotgun, hold the ball out a little bit. Oh, no, RPO, 5-yard dink and dunk throw. If that's what you want to do, sign Nick Foles. And you know what? That's exactly what the Bears want to do. And that's exactly what they did. They signed Nick Foles. Oh, he stinks. He's benched. And Trubisky's back. And oh, Nagy is now demoted himself, benched himself as play caller. It's another Freddie Kitchen situation. You got to be honest when you see these Freddie Kitchen situations and be like, well, maybe there's a quarterback there, a diamond in the rough, a Jim Plunkett, someone who's being mishandled. If you got a keen eye, you got to look for the mishandled quarterbacks. Al Davis did that. You know, Bill Walsh did that. He was looking at Steve Young. He was like, I think he'd do pretty good on my team. In that voice, through his nose. Tampa doesn't know what they're doing. Better bring him over here. That's how Bill Walsh talked when he was alone. That's what I heard, according to sources. Multiple sources. 0 sources.